Hello and welcome to the things we know.
And
I'm Kari.
start over. All right. Hey, Chris, you can just edit that out. Or we leave it in because we're already laughing.
That was premature
Premature introduction.
excitation. Premature introduction.
Maybe we do leave this in just because this is laughter.
Okay. Lemon jello, lemon jello. Okay. Hello and welcome to the things we know. I'm Kari Moore and I'm already laughing.
And I'm Lisa Callahan, and we are excited to be here again with you for a topic that, essentially describes this entire pod and why we are doing it and what connects Kari and I, which is laughter and music as medicine.
If we don't
staged.
If we don't even edit out the beginning, you'll get some snorts in there. So good.
Yeah. If you're watching YouTube, you get to
That's
see the
true.
whole damn thing.
You get to see the whole damn thing. So this is our favorite. Smiling is my favorite. Laughing is my favorite. I'm not sure a day goes by that I don't get my daily dose of each of those. And I'm certain you and I don't go a day without somehow sharing some sort of musical reference or making each other laugh, whether it's over text or Momoji or Marco Polo. We have so many ways of communicating and making each other laugh. And I'm just thinking about opening up a video message from you. And it started with you laughing, and then you had to turn it off and then come back. And that's us, right? And I think it's true of us, maybe even especially on the hard days. So yeah.
Oh yeah. I mean, we've talked about gallows humor before. I mean, I think that is it. Absolutely, laughter and music has gotten me through my entire life, but I would say especially these last several years. And for sure, it is the thing that connected us at the beginning, where we would just laugh so hard that we couldn't breathe. And so we talked about that when we were talking about this pod, of like not wanting to edit that out, because that is this relationship, that is this, what we bring to each other's lives. For sure, musical references, we love the same music, we grew up at the same time, we're the same age, but laughter as well. I was saying this to somebody just the other day. I said, I'm not on Instagram very much, but every time I do go on Instagram, I look and I've got like messages and I'm like, oh, somebody messaged me, and it's always you, and it's always like 5 or 6 reels that are so funny.
I know.
And now I've got it on the pod page and on my regular page. I go and I'm like, oh, what did Kari send me now?
No, ridiculous. I love it. It's funny. I think I shared this before on another pod, but somebody on our wedding day almost 28 years ago asked, kind of was filming us and said, give us a message to your future kids. And we didn't even know if we wanted kids at the time. I'm sure you've heard that before here, but say something. And I said something like, I hope you have a lot of laughter and a lot of music. Like, I hope that's what we provide for you. And you know what, 28 years later, I'm so glad that basically describes our life. It really, really does. It even more so than the hard stuff that I've shared, right? It is how we've gotten through those hard things. It has been like, my kids' sense of humor is the thing I think I'm most proud of.
Oh my God.
And I totally dig the musicians that they have become too. So, it feeds me.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, same with my kids. Liam and Charlotte are much different in their humor. Charlotte has been, from the minute she was born, the girl that does the pratfalls and the characters. Like, Charlotte has just a wealth of characters. She used to do much more so before hitting puberty, but we can still get her to pull one out every now and again. So Charlotte was always like, I remember thinking very early on, like, she's a Kristen Wiig. Like, I'd love her to be on Saturday Night Live because she can sing and she can act and she can dance, and she's so fucking funny and does not mind making herself look quote unquote ugly to be funny. And then Liam is just, he's got more my dad's sense of humor, and Darren's like super dry, And he will text us stuff that I am just crying laughing.
He is hilarious.
He is
I
so
love the
fucking
stuff you
funny.
share.
Yeah.
I know. It's I don't know if I've ever told you this, but because Griffin like was born a joker, like he was always a teaser, always a joker. Miles is naturally funny. Peter is probably actually they're all really funny. Peter just he just has the quickest, driest wit. So that's why another reason I want Ian Liam to meet.
Yeah.
But I told you too, like he was a very quiet, shy kid and he observed stuff a lot. So at one point we were in the kitchen and he was at the breakfast table as a first grader telling Griffin, who probably was like, I don't know, how he and his friend Amelia were tied for first funniest in the class. And this was when my very sweet, very sciencey kid with a lisp who was always, telling us about whales and their life cycles. We were like looking at each other like, really? Say something funny, funny boy. We weren't really sure, but it turned out they were writing a very funny story together. And this very comical story about a Cheeto that had a name. And so it was really like early development that he was kind of bringing it out. But it reminded me of Bruno Kirby in Good Morning Vietnam when he's like, sir, deep down, I know I'm funny.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's go back because we said laughter and music. Let's start with music because music, I mean, we entitled this Music and Laughter as Medicine. A lot of people talk about things that are their medicine, like exercise, and we both love to exercise, but these two are just such a common thing for us. So to me, Lisa, you are a walking archive of musical knowledge, especially from the 80s, but just in general, it's who you are. You go to live music, your whole family. I mean, your family is musical in ways that my family isn't. And just who you are, it's kind of just part of how you breathe. Look at how you're dressed, wearing a Hall & Oates shirt. So you're kind of rock and roll to me. So can you tell us a little bit just about how you came to be so intertwined with music? Because it goes back as far as I know about your history.
Yeah. Thank you. That's high praise. Yeah, I mean, I grew up in a musical household, at least in terms of rock and roll. I always used to categorize my parents as like my dad was a Rolling Stones fan, Doobie Brothers, like that Bob Seger, and my mom was very Beatles and pop oriented. As you heard on the last pod, Harry Styles, like she was always very much more in that pop vein. Like she kind of gave up on the Beatles after like Revolver because it got too sort of rock and roll,
Yeah.
And so I just remember growing up and Sundays when records would go on and they'd be cleaning the house and whatever we were doing, it was just always in my life. And like my parents took disco lessons and so we had the Bee Gees play. Like we just always had music playing. My grandmother was on my dad's side, was a piano teacher. So there was that kind of music as well. And then, yeah, I mean, I went to my first concert, which was Hall & Oates when I was in the 6th grade, and went to concerts with my family. There are a lot of like touchstone moments that are tied to concerts. A couple funny ones that come to mind around my dad. One was I played soccer and I didn't feel very confident in soccer, but I was in AYSO. And so they would move you. I had a really good coach that would move everybody to different positions. And I had to be, I had seen him at my sister's game, my coach at my sister's game. And he came up and he told me I was going to be center that day. And I was freaking out. Yeah. If you could see Kari's face right now, I was like losing. I was like, oh, fuck, I don't want to be center. Yeah. I was really good at halfback. I didn't want to be center at all. And so we're driving to my soccer game. And I said, and my dad said, and a commercial came on, the Go-Go's and Flock of Seagulls were playing at Miami University in Oxford. And my dad, I think he thought he was being funny, was like, if you score a goal today, I'll take you to see the Go-Go's. And I was like, okay. And so I get to the game and I'm telling all my teammates. And one time in my life, that day, I scored a goal. And I remember kicking the goal and my whole team, like, it's as if we had won the championships. They all like come running up and I look over at my dad on the sideline and he's just like shaking his head like, son of a bitch. And then the other funny story about my dad is he took me to see Power Station at Riverbend in Cincinnati. And he, to the day he died, always told this story about how somebody held up a sign that said, John Taylor, here's my underwear. Or no, I think it was worse than that. John Taylor, I want to fuck you. And my dad
Oh my
was,
God.
what have I done? What have I brought my daughter to? So
That's
yeah. Yeah.
and crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so 16, 17 years old, I started hanging around bands, dating musicians. And so it's just always, I married a musician, I birthed two musicians. It's just always been integral in our life. And I'm so happy for that, because it is absolutely such a place to go for memories and for solace, and to get you into a good mood, to work out anger, all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I love it. And okay, so I have some questions about that. But so you ever been to a concert like with your mom? Like, have you two been to a concert together?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, again, when I say my first concert was when I was 6th grade, it was the whole family. And
that's awesome. Okay.
Yeah, my mom
okay.
and dad and sister all went to Hall & Oates. I went to see Prince with my mom and her boyfriend at the time. Mom and I have seen Hall & Oates together a couple of different times. One of my favorite concerts was she came to Chicago because Hall & Oates was playing with Kenny Loggins, which was another one of her favorites. So we went to see them at Chicago
That's
Theater.
rad.
I love this. My mom, I mean, she really like would go to, like, there were local concerts in Mason that she would go to by herself, not big stars, but more like festivals and things like that. Music was huge for my mom as well, and my dad.
That's awesome. Yeah. I mean, my parents loved music and they went to concerts, but not with us. Like they saw Neil Diamond or, Diana Ross, things like that, but not with us. I just recently, I don't know if you've ever heard of Storyworth. It's an app that prompts people to tell their stories of their life. And I gave it to our parents, and my mother-in-law writes the most amazing things, and she uploads pictures. And this one that she did, the question was, which musicians or bands have you most liked seeing live? And I read it to Brendan, and he had no idea her first concert was Ray Charles in Boston. Oh, wow. And that she stumbled into a hotel area one time with her girlfriend when she was on a nursing conference, and saw James Taylor practicing. So then she got to go see him in concert. So there was some really cool stuff there that I thought, I wonder if I don't know all the concerts my parents been to, because she listed all these really cool artists. And Brendan was like, I have no idea. Because we think of his dad as he was a DJ. He knows, he can hear any song and tell you what year it came out, so that's so cool hearing that about your parents, because I feel like your kids and my kids are growing up going to concerts with us. I didn't have that experience. I had a lot of music. Like for me, one of the things I think about a lot is how much music, because my mom's parents were in a band when they met, and they were in a band until my grandma passed away. She played the piano, he played the drums. So cool. With his tongue out to the side with a little snare. They were in a Dixieland band, but there was so much music. Everyone always had instruments out. There was always singing when my parents would host parties. So we grew up with a lot of things like Beach Boys and, but also a lot of, Beach Boys, Carpenters, Beatles, same thing. ABBA, a lot of that stuff. And then when our parents, they kind of were they were the kind of parents that got together with their friends and didn't want to pay a babysitter. So they'd make just the older kids take care of the younger kids in the basement or the bonus room or outside, don't come in here. And then at some point after they'd been, as my mom likes to say, a little more shaffazed, we would find our way in there and we would perform for them. So we would do routines to the Beach Boys for them. And so that was a big part. We always, we were early lip syncers and early performers. And that was always kind of part of our downtime, was music in the car, all of that. And so for me, I think of music, I say this a lot, as a time machine, right? So if I hear a song, immediately I'll be like, Karen Vogan, Lavender Chords, MTV coming out, this song, by The Fix or Adamant or the Dire Straits. These songs, even if they weren't even my favorite songs, will bring me there, right? Yeah. But as soon as you said Prince, you made me remember that one of I've seen him twice. Two of my favorite concerts ever. He really, really gives a great show. And it was so fun that one of the times I saw him, Brendan was like, "Who you taking?" And I was like, "You." And he didn't think he liked him until he watched him play guitar, and then he was
Oh
kind
yeah.
of blown away. So yeah, for me, it's a time machine. Like you said, it's about melancholy. We talked about this in our like one of our first episodes about how we reach for music to help us feel our feelings. I think it is one of the my greatest acts of self-care is to have playlists that match my mood, that
Yes.
match my fears or my nerves or my celebration. I think of like in that movie, the Tom Cruise movie about him being a sports agent. Oh my gosh.
Oh, Jerry Maguire.
Jerry Maguire, when he's like in the car after he thinks he's signed that quarterback,
Yeah.
and he's like, just call me Angel. And like he's turning and then he's like, free, free falling. Like that is so me when I'm just looking for the right song. And
Yeah.
and because it's our generation, we have like the mixtapes where we're
Oh yeah.
like that's how we kind of made Valentines for people, or shared our personalities, shared our intimacy with people, as we'd make them a mixtape. And so like for me, all of this just feels like our own personal soundtrack, like the way we kind of look back at our lives and like certain songs that bring us places. I will do that now in my life. Like during my day, will sometimes just crack up at the songs that come in the back of my head. Like I'll get home and I'll hear Talking Heads, home, it's where I want to be. And so like I'll have these things in my head, and sometimes Lisa's dancing. Sometimes I won't even realize it's there, and then I'll start singing, and my kids will go, "Why are you singing that?" Because it's not very favorable to them or something. Like, I had no idea. So yeah, that's for me. Like obviously I did go to a lot of concerts growing up because I was in Southern California. I was very lucky that there were so many. Like Oingo Boingo played at our high school. I snuck out and went and saw Paul Young. I've told you that before,
Yeah.
but saw U2 a couple times. There was one time in particular where I was driving to school with Marcy, my friend. We carpooled and we heard on the radio on K-Rock that U2 was performing in the street, and we like took off and went there, and we yeah.
Off the
Yes,
roof
yes,
line.
yes.
I'm pointing behind me because
Yes.
the hotel is behind me.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's like those moments of just being there and having access to it was also really helpful, because I don't know if naturally I would have seen as many as you did because I didn't have parents taking me, but I'm really glad that I had close proximity to it.
Well, the reality of it is, I mean, growing up in Dayton, I was close to Cincinnati. People didn't come to Dayton per se, although some did. I saw Duran in Dayton and things like that. But Cincinnati is always a stop. And so I got to see a ton of bands, and I got to meet NXS, but that was in Columbus when I was 15. And I went to school to Miami to be a DJ. That's what I thought I was going to be. I was going to be mass comm. I went mass comm because I wanted to be a DJ. I've always had this voice. And so I thought that would be a great...
This is on the mic.
But the best part is now Liam has a show. Now
I was just thinking that.
I know. So Liam became a DJ this year at UC San Diego. And you say I have an archival knowledge. I mean, honest to God, that kid has a knowledge of music because his spans so far. Every one of his shows is a different genre. But again, he grew up, the other night, his was on jazz, and we always text him. We're always talking to him during his show. And he played a song that Darren responded, "This is used to fall asleep to this." And Liam's like, "I didn't know that. No wonder I'm always sleepy when I listen to this." But I mean, because again, like, we joked about birthing plans, right? Mm-hmm. So the one thing that we made really sure that we had it with both of the kids was music. Mm-hmm. And because Darren could control it, when Liam was born, the first song we had was a song by the Waterboys. We wanted, now they're Scottish, but they play Celtic music, so Celtic rock. So we had the Waterboys playing, and this one's even better. Charlotte is actually named after a Julian Cope song. And when she came out, Darren immediately put Charlotte Ann on. So like when you see the videos of their births, you can hear Liam's Waterboys and Charlotte Ann playing in the background as her little feet are getting, dyed.
That's and so really forth. Neat.
So they just, I mean, Liam knew John Coltrane and David Bowie and all of this stuff from the get-go. Just it's been absolutely ingrained in them from the day they were born.
That's funny. I used to do this thing when I could control all the music on the radio, like I'm going to introduce you to this genre, and then we'd have like, and I would test them on it, and we did like, entire weeks or sometimes months with certain artists, and they love that. They look back at that and they remember that, and it's funny, like when they also went beyond. Brendan is super into music. He knows a lot of obscure music. My kids have always loved the stuff that he pulls out and created a playlist for every birthday. So they have these old CDs that he burned for it, and he'd put these little collages on. But now like they start sending stuff to him and to us. And so like when their musical taste goes beyond us, or like a little bit, like it expands everybody's, and we have a huge vinyl collection that we inherited from Brendan's dad. And then we got my vinyl and Brendan's. And so it's so fun for, Peter, like, is such a believer that we should just keep collecting them for $1. He doesn't like when Miles actually invests like a whole bunch of money in them, but who cares? But it's great because then they're either playing something like Krungbin, or Miles is playing some Japanese disco from the 80s, or like Little River Band, or like it's just all over the place, and it's so great. Like there's a Cream album out there, so they're really loving going back to places where they can buy used vinyl and figure it out and ask us about it. And they sort of love/hate what happens to us when they put something on that brings Brendan and I back, because then they have to listen to us go, oh my gosh, yeah, this reminds me of when my hair was feathered, and all those things. So it's been really so fun, and they are so obsessed with their artists that they follow, and they see a ton of live music. Those two. Peter's in New Orleans; it's so easy there. But even here in Portland, Miles will plan a whole evening around certain artists dropping their music, and this whole idea of like it dropping, and he like has to hear it right when it drops. Kind of reminds me of when albums came out,
Oh yeah.
That's the closest thing they have. And he's just like, nobody come up,
But that's the thing that they're so that next generation's so lucky. I mean, say what you will about Spotify. There's a lot wrong with how artists are. There's a lot wrong with how artists are paid these days. Streaming has decimated that for sure. And there is a sense of, especially for Liam, like he puts his music up on Bandcamp. Charlotte has her music up on Spotify, but it does allow for you to learn more, to embrace more, and to get your music out in a way that wasn't easy for Darren and when he was in bands back in the 80s and the 90s. It was a lot more labor intensive, and now it's just like you upload it like we do the pod, which is pretty amazing.
That's so cool.
Yeah. I mean, we could talk about music.
I know.
Quite frankly, but yeah, laughter is also a piece of this, right? I mean, laughter gets us, we already said it gets us through so many hard times, and that gallows humor, it's what drew us together. It has obviously been a big part of our parenting. So how's laughter medicine for you?
I mean, again, we could laugh about this all day.
And we will.
I think we both know as coaches and as humans, laughter and jokes, they can also sometimes be a mask for something. I know that just being Irish and Catholic, that I was just programmed to be like, Philly wagons. That, by the way, is a reference to my Irish Catholic son, Peter Carroll, who as a little was like trying to laugh off his fear of these weird little Thomas the Tank wagons that made this funny snickering noise. And they're not nice characters. And so he would hear them go off in his toy chest when he was trying to go to sleep. And he's like, Philly wagon.
Which right there, right? That's humor. Like using humor. Like, I'm going to laugh about this so then I don't cry.
Got himself through it. Yeah, he got himself through it. But yeah, like, so I know it's not always healthy and appropriate. And I'm certainly the kind of person who sometimes will laugh before I'm ready to cry about something. But, to me, humor is like not only sometimes the most appropriate thing, for like shifting a mood or shifting a conflict. It's also, to me, one of the sexiest traits in a human.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, more often than not, to me, it's a sign of intelligence, of great listening, of people who make connections. like they're listening and then they bring it back around. And I just, just so lit up by that. I will notice people like that. I will gravitate to people like that. It is so my, one of my love languages is make me laugh.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess like in my family, we're all about the jokes, especially in times of stress or duress. And we get our cue often from the person we're rallying around. So for instance, the amount of times I can tell you that like Griffin in a moment, and he's not the only one who's been through something hard, but since we talk about him a lot and that's more recent, like after a massive jaw surgery, he could barely talk. We could barely hear him. And when we leaned in, he was ripping on Brendan. He was teasing Brendan, calling him like tiny dad or something like that. And he was cracking himself up. Like he heard music in his head and he was sort of shaking his shoulders. And we're like, what? And actually when the accident happened, when he first shattered his jaw, he's, if you can imagine, that's kind of a horrific ride to the hospital. And he was just sitting there and he goes, can I say a bad word? And we said, yeah, of course. He goes, this fucking hurts. And then he started laughing. He's like, oh, too painful to laugh. It's like, it was just his opportunity to, bring humor to it, to get him through it until we got there. And, and that's kind of how we do things a lot. It's so much so that sometimes I do circle back to be like, you sure you're okay? I know you were laughing, but yeah, it is that there's often some of the most painful, hard moments are matched with a lot of gallows humor, which I know is why you like me.
Yeah, it is definitely one of our shared traits for sure.
How about you? I mean, your family's freaking hilarious, so I'm sure it's the same.
Yeah, yes, the family. I mean, I think I am funny. I mean, I think I can own that. You're funny. We make each other laugh, but there's really nothing better than just the full, like, lean your head back, full on laugh. And I know that I have people in my life who, that's you being one of them, because you've said it before, like it's almost your aim, like there's nothing better than getting me to laugh. And so to your point, yes, I'm attracted to that for sure. Darren's much more of a dry humor. Like Darren's one of those people that if you don't know him, he says everything's so flat and dry. And so he'll say something, and literally, my mom knew him for however many years, 30 years. And it only near the end did she finally catch on, but there'd be so many times he would say something and she'd be like, Darren, and I'd be like, Mom, he is joking, for the love of God, how long does it take? So there's that dry sense of humor, there's that gallows humor, there's the pratfalls. Darren loves a pratfall. One of Darren's best friends is a guy named Ray West, and he's also a stepbrother, sort of. And I love seeing Ray and Darren together, because Ray makes Darren laugh in a way that no one else does. Like it is a genuine, just full body laugh. And it's such a physical release, right? To have that, same as crying, but that same thing, like there's these endorphins that just flow through your body,
totally.
And so I think what's cool is that we're in a day and age now where there are things like Reels, and all that stuff, and YouTube and all the things you can. So if you need a laugh and you can't get one out of yourself, you can go find something to elicit that for yourself. We talked about obviously music, and I said, we played a lot of music in our house, but we also had a lot of comedy records. My dad loved Bob Newhart, Richard Pryor, like all those.
Yes.
Had those, and we watched, comedy on Netflix and things like that.
We used to have a lot of Eddie Murphy comedy albums and Richard Pryor.
Yeah.
Those were on repeat. I used to know those by heart because I have that.
Steve Martin.
Oh, Steve Martin. I used to have, I still do. I have a weird ability to like watch a movie once and like remember the line exactly, and and have the timing down. And so I would do that with those comedy albums as well. We would sit around our record player, my brother and sister and I, and memorize those and crack ourselves up, and then go impersonate it to our parents. Because same thing, I love making you laugh. Making my dad laugh was just so great for me, because he is smart and he was funny and he really appreciated a good sense of humor. It's funny though, in our family, like I think everybody's pretty hilarious. Like Brendan has a great dry sense of humor, like Darren, and he doesn't really care if anyone hears it. Like if he cracks himself up or if someone near him cracks up. But the other thing he kind of has that he's getting a lot of shit for is his dad humor. And he's like, it's almost like it's like he belched and he's like a little embarrassed by it, right? Like, but it's not a belch. It's like a dad joke that he just couldn't help. And then he's like pretty bad. And we're like groaning. Like, why would you say that?
Dad jokes are the best.
It's expected by his stepdad, like my kid's grandfather. My father-in-law, Carl, is so good at the dad jokes. But when Brendan does it, we just groan. And I finally, Miles is like, no, I'm starting to do it. I'll say the obvious dad joke. And my friends look at me like, what are you, a dad? And Miles is really funny. So it's like, it's almost like an infection. Like you start to hear it and then it just comes out of your mouth and you're like, shit.
You're like trying to grab it back and put it back in your mouth.
Yeah. My dad had one. My dad, who was also really funny, had this one dad joke that he just used every time he went to a restaurant. And it was, someone brought him he'd order things medium rare. He liked things like really, and then they would come and she'd say, is that okay? And he'd say, shot a penicillin and a Band-Aid and this guy might make it. And we would just be like, oh, like if he's like, we just knew it was coming and he would say it and our eyes would roll back in our heads. And then the waiter would laugh and make him feel like he could tell it again next time.
Enable him. But you know, it's funny. As we were talking, I was thinking, one of the things that I remember thinking, I said, I think I'm funny, but I remember when I first became a Weight Watcher leader, like if, I was really fearful of getting up and leading a meeting. And I really got to the point where it's like, if I could get up and say something, and it was usually self-deprecating, and it could get the room to laugh, like that is community too, right? Like if everybody's like kind of laughing, it brings any kind of tension or fear or stress down. And then the rest of the meeting would just I just remember thinking that every time I'm on stage, it's like, no matter what fear you have, if you can say something that's going to make the audience laugh, you're kind of in like Flynn, and then the rest of the presentation is going to go great.
Totally.
I did that when we've been on stage together.
Totally. It's the best. And it makes everyone else feel better too, I think, in the room. I was just saying this to someone today that I was coaching. Like if you're having fun and you are enjoying yourself and you find something funny, everyone in the room, you're going to make everyone who's listening to you, even if like you mess up and you can make a joke about it, you're going to like bring everyone in. Right. Yeah. And I think that's what it is humor connects us. And yeah, I mean, and to your point about comedy, like we see comedy shows as a family, we send each other comedy clips.
Yeah.
And just like music, yes, I have a library of funny clips of things that I will click on and open just because they make me like fall over laughing. And one of them is Conan O'Brien and Ice Cube and Kevin Hart doing Ride Along. I mean, please.
Yep.
Just even thinking about it makes me just like howl laughing. Or some of the lip sync battles are so freaking
amazing.
Funny, So those are some of my favorite things to
see right now for us, and it's been this way for a while. And again, going back to like our kids turning us on to things, that same is true with humor. Liam got into I don't know, God, probably 3 or 4 years ago now, Tim Robinson. And he watched I Think You Should Leave, the whole thing first. It was during pandemic, during when we were, had to stay home. And I remember like Liam telling me the skits first and then watching them after the fact. And I told him, I said, it was almost funnier because I already knew you had already given me the background. So now we actually have this running joke when the 5 of us are together, the 4 of us and Irina, how we time how quickly it is until one of us quotes Tim Robinson. So like, and we don't really, but it's like that idea of we're all together and something comes up, a Tim Robinson, and I'll look at my watch. I'm like, oh wow, that was only 10 minutes. Good for us. I think we beat our new record. So funny. So we were actually at a movie premiere a couple months ago, and we saw one of the very tiny side characters in one of Tim Robinson's skits. He was in the movie, so he was at the premiere. It was short films. And we like beelined to him afterwards. And he's been in a million different things. Like we looked him up afterwards on IMDb. We went up to him like, you were in the Tim Robinson sketch about tables. And the guy was like, I was, it was just like so.
That is so cool.
Again, right. That's the thing we were attracted to, is the comedy aspect.
Oh yeah.
He was probably like, nobody ever asked me about tables.
Oh my gosh. I freaking love that. That's so great.
Music and laughter.
I know. It's making me kind of want to kind of go back to my library and add to it, because you're right. Our kids sent us the both you and me the white woman's Instagram.
Yes.
What's his name?
Bo Burnham.
Bo Burnham. Yeah.
Inside is amazing. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's amazing and like rightfully disturbing in a way that's a wake call, but so freaking funny. Like the things our kids were like sending back to us, and
because then my kids made up a white woman's Instagram for my Instagram for Mother's Day. Thanks,
that was
kids.
so good.
They bought me the shirt.
Might contain wine or something like that.
Wine, and then they did a whole PowerPoint taking the song, and they took Bo's things and then took my Instagram clips, which is one of the reasons I'm hardly on Instagram anymore, because I was so like, oh man, that stings. Because there was a picture of a coffee, and then there was my picture of my coffee, yes. And I was like, all right, I get you. I am a white woman's Instagram.
Every once in a while, if I'm in the kitchen like with an avocado, Miles will walk behind me and go, an avocado. So good.
Oh my gosh. Oh, yeah.
All right. So now hopefully maybe this explains our quirky sense of humor on our social media, if you're following us.
Yeah.
I mean, the other place that that I think will probably be out by then is I have a lot of, so does Lisa. We have a lot of mugs with our dark sense of humor on it. And so that's how I start my day sometime, is with snark and humor.
Yeah. Snark and humor, two of my favorite things. And I start with music. I mean, I don't think I've ever said this on here, but I mean, one of the things that really shifted for me in 2021, as I moved away from watching the news and into listening to music in between everything I did. And the last 2 years, year end on Spotify, like I am clocking, I'm not kidding, close to 100,000 hours of music. I listen to music so much, but it is just what gets me through my day,
Same. I love it.
So I want you to reflect on, I mean, obviously, again, we could talk about this forever, but we were talking about, I want to share one of my favorite songs, some lyrics. We do this obviously every time, but you had some humor songs that we were kind of talking about that before we started. So you said you wanted to kind of list a few.
Well, yeah, because we like to like have songs that reflect. And so I was thinking about it. I was never super into, other than the Wiggles, which we've established, kid directed music. But early on when we were exposing them to music and my kids' sense of humor, we loved, like you said, you brought up They Might Be Giants, Bare Naked Ladies. And there was one song in particular that got into the rotation a lot, which was Tangerine Speedo by Caviar. If you don't know the song, look it up. But I love when music and, humor come together for us, because on road trips, that has sometimes been just a great little, sort of state change for us, is to play music, like, or Peaches, moving to the country, gonna eat a lot of peaches. My kids have always laughed really hard at that song for some reason. Or like there's a song called Peanut Butter and Jelly. I don't know if you know that one.
Oh,
that always cracked them up too. So Gummy Bears, stuff like that. So there's a lot there. I can list them. I'll do like a little post about that. But my favorite song, if you wanted me to go into that.
Yes, please.
The song, I during all 3 births, I played Bob Marley. It's often a go-to. It just when I want to feel good. I think I do celebrate Christmas, so by Christmas Day I'm so sick of Christmas music that I'll listen to Legend all day, and it just feels like the best way to spend that day for So it is my ringtone. So it's 3 Little Birds, and it's just that idea that everything's going to be all right, right? Don't worry about a thing. So it's just that feeling that, Lisa's dancing.
Yeah.
And I at one point learned it in sign language and then taught that to my kids. So it was just a really, it's a song that's kind of always an equilibrium for my family. It always makes everyone feel good.
Yeah. For me, the Venn diagram of music and humor is definitely Spinal Tap.
For sure.
My dad took my sister and I, my parents were already divorced, and my dad took my sister and I to see Spinal Tap in the theater, and we were too young to understand it in any way, shape, or form. So I just remember leaving the theater being like, that was dumb. And then one of my first jobs was working at Camelot Music, and the Spinal Tap soundtrack would fly off the wall. I mean, always. We were always selling that.
So good.
But I remember people buying it and thinking to myself, what the fuck? Why are you buying this? Then I started dating musicians.
Yes.
Then it made sense. And
Totally.
so now it's like, we watch Spinal Tap and just cry, hello, Cleveland. Like we
Oh my
just,
gosh.
so much good stuff
There's a
there.
fine line between clever and stupid.
Yeah, totally.
Wait, Brendan
Oh my God.
has all my kids quoting that movie.
Oh,
so,
we could quote that. Yeah. None More Black, all the things.
yeah.
Darren, we were listening to a friend's album the other day, and Darren was sitting at the board. He's like, does this go up to 11? I mean, like literally, it's just part of the vernacular at this point.
Same.
For me, it's hard for me. Sometimes Darren or somebody will ask me like, what's your top favorite bands? I'm like, I mean, I could do bands, but what's your favorite song? And I have so many. So I was trying to think what is one that just every time and sort of embodies this pod as well. I mean, I love Bowie. I love Roxy Music. I love Duran. And of course, Brian Ferry. So for me, the lyric I wanted to grab was from The Right Stuff, because I remember hearing this song at one point and literally thinking to myself, the woman he is singing about, that's who I want to be. And so the line that just kills me every time is, send me the woman to fight for me. Nature's wild, hard to beat. She's mountain high, river deep, the right stuff.
That's awesome.
I love Brian Ferry so much.
That's really good. Well, that is it. We could keep going, but we have other things we need to go do, and we need to get back to texting each other songs and jokes
and humor
and humor. And you too. So if you're enjoying listening to the things we know, we're super excited about that. And we are so glad you're here. And we want you to consider pressing follow wherever you listen to pods. So it's either a plus sign or a follow button wherever you listen to podcasts.
And if you enjoyed this pod or any of the ones you've listened to, please forward it to someone else. You can hit the little share button. You can copy a link. You can send it on social media. But we would love for you to share this pod as well, maybe with a laughter emoji.
Well, thank you so much for being here, and so long. And we will be back next week, same day of the week, Tuesdays when they drop, with the next episode.
With something else that we know. Thanks everyone for listening. Bye.
Bye.